If you've lived in Spain for any length of time, this has probably happened to you. I'm talking about the Obra next door. Obra? The works, the building site, the excavation of your street, or in my case, the €2.6 million EU-funded project to divert a grey water outlet into the river that fronts my finca to a new sewage plant downstream. Works for this began in the first weeks of April and have been daily shattering any remnant of tranquillity for which I bought my finca, the sounds of running water and birdsong. For how long I will endure this purgatory, I'm unsure. Until March? Until sometime later in the year? I don't know. I've stopped believing what they tell me. Meanwhile, I've no vehicular access, thanks to a steadily deepening hole whose trajectory appears to be the Earth's core. I steel myself every morning for an 8 a.m. start, a groaning of diesel machinery, the echoing crash of stone and steel, blokes shouting, the beep, beep, beep of orange flashing lights denoting a reversing tipper, a racket that continues till 6 p.m. And so it is that when one discovers someone else stuck in a similar ordeal, it's nice to share. Because if you didn't, you'd probably go mad. Joining me is another grumpy old man, another Obra victim, Matthew Wolfman. Good morning. Can you hear me above the jackhammers?
Funny you should say that, Kit. You're not alone, of course. And just as you were doing that rather wonderful introduction, the dumper truck went bounding by with that sort of low hum that I get 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times a day, on top of the drilling, on top of the hammering, on top of the actual cement mixing machine, on top of the shouting in the street, on top of the, well, you name it. And it just goes on and on and on.
Yes, and so how are you handling it?
With great angst and anxiousness and anger, and I have some horrible thoughts that go through my head involving, I don't know, earthquakes and dynamite and whatever. I shouldn't talk.
I mean,
about that.
it's a bit like a menopause, isn't it? And I'm talking not necessarily about the female menopause, because men have menopauses as well. You have good days and bad days.
I think I have. Yes, you're right. You know, when the sun's out, the sun is out today, and it's rather beautiful and crisp. I feel less, if you like, anxious. But the last time it rained, which was a month or so ago, because of the demolition that was going on next door, all the insides of these aging ancient dust and stony walls was exposed to the flood, and the water came tumbling down and through the brickwork and managed to soak in and through one of our downstairs loos. So
yeah, so actually what's happening next door to you, because you live in a terraced house, don't you? So and this is right next to you, this adjacent works. What are they actually doing?
We share a wall. You know, I'm part of I'm in this ancient village. My house must be get it over 200 years old. I mean, it really is. You know, the walls are a metre thick. It's one of those wonderful places where it's cool in summer and equally cool in winter. You know, the temperature hardly changes inside. It's rather lovely.
It's organic.
And next door, sort of, we shared was another old, if you like, house of the village. Now, of course, it's been bought by an absentee foreign extranjeros, who happens to be from Norway, who's not here. And of course, for some silly reason, this village house was bought, and the owners wished to turn it into some Marbella-esque or Floridian-esque villa in this little village, which to me is just bonkers. I mean, I have to be fair. They did share the plans and all the rest of it. It's not as though I wasn't aware this might be coming. But, of course, in Spain, the most overused or underused, or the word that you can't really understand is that simple word mañana. In other words, when was the building works going to start? And I got a whole series of sort of various dates. We were told, they've got to start by April, otherwise the permiso runs out. But did they start in April? No. Did they start in May? No. Did they start in June? No. They started the demolition on the hottest day of the year, towards the beginning of July. And we had our whole summer of this hammering and drilling and banging and dropping and demolishing and crashing through the hottest days of the year. So it was all dust, and I mean, it was just awful.
Yeah, I mean, my opera was delayed big time, and it sort of hangs over you like a 16-ton weight, doesn't it? And then one day it starts, and it sounds like Armageddon. I mean, did you have any warning? Did you have any from the contractor, for example?
No.
There wasn't a diplomatic representation.
No.
Right.
We know the builders, we know the contractors, we know the guys who are working next door. We all get on. But did they warn us? No. It just started. And then, of course, when you ask for a schema, a plan, how long is this going to take, what's going on, we get all the promises, but do we get a delivery? No. So I don't know. It's just fairly typical, I guess.
Are you trepidatious of the end result? Is it going to affect your view, for example?
To be honest, I don't know why they knocked the bloody thing down in the first place. Because, well, I do, but they because of the regs, they have to basically put back what was there. The reason they claim, or they were forced to do it, was some earlier extraneros had added a floor to this house in a rather hodgepodge way. In the old days, when, I don't know, a bottle of whiskey to the mayor and a nod and a wink was enough for you to get on with the building.
Yeah.
So this thing was put up, and it turned out that they just put it up on some rotten beams, and eventually the beams rotted. And that floor essentially not fell in, but some of it began to collapse into the second floor. So the whole lot had to come down.
Okay, so they're taking the top off and putting a new floor on. Now, the irony of the timing, Matthew, is that you are trying to sell your house.
Well, that was the idea.
We've given up now.
We've given up. How would anyone buy? I mean, we've got this lovely place, we've got these fabulous views, we've got this fabulous old house, we've got one of those inner arabesque courtyard gardens, we've got a little plunge pool, we've got loos, bedrooms, views, vistas, whatever. It's fantastic. And we're in the heart of a village, so you can just wander off down the road to the best tienda in the village, as it were. It's fantastic. And we had lots of interest. And well, that's not the only thing, because when we bought this place, what was it, 11, 12 years ago, we were told we were entirely legal, which we were at that time. Anyway, we had an offer on the house earlier on before this whole demolition malarkey started. And we found out through the lawyers, well, you're not actually quite legal, because you need to get this permiso, you need to get this license, oh, you haven't got that approval. The work that was done on the house in the 1980s is not on the catastral. I mean, the whole thing went on and on and on, so we've had to employ an architect, we've had to employ a lawyer, and then in the meantime, the potential buyer said, sod this for a game of soldiers, we're off, and what's our buyer? And then, of course, once the buyer was gone, I'm deep into this very expensive legalisation process, which I have to say I have a very good architect. He's very kind. He's got us through it several thousand euros later. But it's been a bit of a nightmare.
So Matthew, what with the Obra and the disappearance of your punters, you're now legal, whatever. You're I think I recall you telling me that once the Obra is finished, then now the street outside your house is going to be excavated for new drainage. Is that the next purgatory that awaits you?
I think that is likely. The village is sort of renewing all its sort of infrastructure, particularly the drain.
Yes, as it does in a sort of rotation, doesn't it? There's always a street that's being dug up.
And of course, the money comes in slowly. So every year, another cahier is done. And I live on the main cahier to the church. You know, the broader, the bigger, the wider, the one with the trees, the one. And when this happens, the digging up and God knows what else is just going to go on and on and on and on.
So can I ask you, bearing in mind that it was in your mind to sell, and these misfortunes have befallen you, how stuck do you feel?
Oh dear, I want to be polite here. I love where I am. I love what we are. I love our places, but we have this calling, called grandchildren. And unfortunately, they don't live in the village. They don't live in Spain. They live back in the UK. And, being granny and granddad, we want to try and give as much help as we can. So my wife's backwards and forwards doing a bit. And I'm sort of remaining here on the next to the building site, looking after dog, cat, and trying to keep the dust away.
Yes, and trying to keep your head in order, I suppose. I suppose that the concept of stuckness is interesting, isn't it? You're only really stuck if you want to be somewhere else. Otherwise, you're not stuck.
Well, it's a bit of ebb and flow for me. So when can you hear?
Yeah, perfectly.
No, can you hear the hammering?
Oh, hang on. Let's pause. No, I can't hear it. You're imagining it, Matthew. It's in your head.
No, I can tell you, it's relatively wild. My, if you like, the floor is just there's a little quiver under my feet.
Oh, you're getting vibrations as well.
A little bit of vibration, yeah. Here we go.
No, I can hear that. We can hear that.
Yeah, there you go. It might sound cute at your end, like a little woodpecker on a tree.
Yeah. It sounded like a friendly neighbour knocking on the door. Didn't sound remotely threatening or ominous. Matthew, you are of course known in Gaucín as the Bard, and I believe you've put pen to paper to try and work off some of your exasperation. Can we hear the result?
Well, yeah, I've got this little, I don't know, it's a bit sonnet-esque, but it's not about love, I have to tell you. Sonnets should be about love, but this one isn't. This is called Dog Dirt Corner, and it goes something like this. The Dog Dirt Corner is busy. It's a market day for invertebrates to squeak and scuttle away, engaged in battle, in banter and barter. Their pulps touch and taste a sort of cream of tartar. On this stone path echoes an iron-shod heel of a cotton bomber-jacketed big wheel. His two legs pass, not 4, 6, or 8 or more. This fat man stamps and splatters the crooked floor. He's barbarian, a vulgarian, like a mayoral authoritarian, and just another of the crudest of fools who signs off one more demolition, no rules. So the town is ground down under hammer and cement, turning all to grey and sluttish with no lament. Put the boot in, it falls, let's just flatten. Drill and cudgel, bruise, bludgeon and blacken. We are like the insects turned to boneless meal, just some more victims in another economic deal.
Well, there we are. Build. It's the story of Andalusia, unfortunately. Matthew, it's been a great pleasure as ever the Bard of the Serenea. Hang in there with your works. You have my deepest empathy, because I'm in the same boat. And I imagine a number of our listeners are too, long suffering, enduring the noise, external noise, and also the noise inside your head, which starts to build in some sort of resonance with what's going on outside. Matthew, it's been a great pleasure as ever.
Okay, good to talk to you, Kit. You have a great day. I hope your listeners have a great day, not quite as burdened with what's going on here.
God, how we suffer. Bye-bye, mate. Thank you so much.
Pleasure. Adios.